Good morning, everybody. Matt Moda here to give you my favorite NBA player prop picks today. We got a big slate of NBA games to dive into tonight. I'm going to have four of my favorite NBA player prop picks for you guys to lock in. Again, we're talking tonight's NBA betting slate, Monday, November 25th. Before we can get into today's picks, we got to do a recap, of course. And on the entire season, we're still trying to work our way back to getting break even, to getting green on the year. Things looked like we were going to get there on Saturday. All we needed was Anthony Davis to not crap his pants, and we would be down like a unit instead of the like a little over 3 you see on the screen. Unfortunately, Anthony Davis did crap his pants on Saturday, and then we had a pretty rough day yesterday. We got hooked on Anthony Edwards points. We had Ben Simmons over 6.5 assists. He had 5 in the first half. He ended the game with 5, so we lost a little bit of what we made back yesterday, but if you look at the past 5 days or so, from like Thursday on, we've been pretty good. We've been cooking. So hopefully we're able to continue that. For tonight's picks, I'm going to have 4 players that we are backing for tonight, one of which we are taking a juicy ladder play on. So it's going to be 5 bets total, backing 4 players. Real quick, just remember to like the video, comment, and then subscribe if you're not already. And let's start talking bangers. So play number 1, Mavericks versus Hawks game. I'm taking Kyrie Irving over 26.5 points, minus 102 odds at FanDuel. Now, normally, if this was a completely normal spot where there were no travel, no rest issues, this would be a ladder play up to 30 plus points, no questions asked. It'd be just a very easy ladder. But it's not the best spot for Kyrie Irving, not the best spot in general for the Dallas Mavericks. And when I say spot, I don't mean matchup. It's a great matchup against the Hawks. What I mean is the Mavericks are traveling on the second half of a back-to-back, and their game last night, a hard-fought game that went into overtime against the Miami Heat. So just a tough play from that perspective. You worry about tired legs and stuff like that. If this was a normal matchup where like the rest thing wasn't an issue, easy 30-point McSlam for Kyrie Irving. But the Mavericks did lose last night. They lost kind of a brutal loss to the Heat. So hopefully a little bit of added motivation is able to get them their adrenaline pumping. Tired legs won't be an issue. And if you look at the 3 back-to-backs that Kyrie has played this year, he's played over 39 minutes in 2 of them. And then the other game he played 36 minutes. So Jason Kidd, old school coach, he's going to play his guys even on a back-to-back normal allotment of minutes, which is what we should expect tonight. And that's for the matchup. As I mentioned, just a dream smash play because of the matchup against the Atlanta Hawks. Although smash up does sound like a nice way to combine smash play, juicy matchup. But we're looking at Kyrie without Luka in a great play against this horrible Hawks defense. Now, Kyrie has only hit the over 26.5 in 1 of 3 games this year without Luka Doncic. He's just shot poorly in those 3 games. 9 for 18, 7 for 19, 9 for 21. Now, of course, with the guard that takes a higher percentage of their shots on the perimeter is always going to have a lower shooting percentage than like a center, of course. But you just see the sub 50% shot rate in 2 of those 3, exactly 50% in 1 of them. And you just see kind of signs for positive regression, especially in a matchup against a very, very soft defense, a very bad Atlanta Hawks defense. The Hawks have allowed the 3rd most points per game to guards in the NBA, and when you dig into it, it makes sense why they're such a bad defense guarding guards. Kyrie Irving scores the majority of his points out of isolation. The Hawks allow the 8th most points per possession via ISO in the entire NBA. That number would be worse, but teams don't really run a lot of ISO against the Hawks. Instead, what they do, they run a lot of pick and rolls. And with that thought in mind, Kyrie Irving has scored the 2nd most of his points in terms of a play type perspective as the main pick and roll ball handler. The Hawks have allowed literally the most points per game to the pick and roll ball handler in the entire NBA. It's pretty simple. You find out whoever Trae Young's guarding, you put him in a pick and roll, and you hope to either get a switch or whatever. But teams that run pick and rolls against the Hawks have a ton of success doing so. Scoring via ISO, scoring in the pick and roll, that's perfect for Kyrie Irving. Those 2 reasons is why this is such a dream matchup for Kyrie Irving, because guards that have the ball in their hands have a lot of success against the Hawks, and Kyrie's going to have the ball in his hands the entire game. So I feel really good about backing Kyrie Irving to get over the 26.5 point number. Just have to hope those tired legs aren't an issue tonight. That's play number 1. Play number 2 is actually our ladder play as well. So technically bets 2 and 3. Magic versus Hornets game. Lamelo Ball over 30.5 points, minus 105 odds at BetMGM is the full unit McSlam. Lamelo Ball 35 plus points, plus 210 odds at BetMGM is a half unit mini slam. Generally, in terms of my betting ethos, I don't like to bet guys coming off of career games. Lamelo just put up 50 points in his last game. But with Miles Bridges out for this game, and it's a better matchup than you would expect against the Orlando Magic. Like you wouldn't expect them to be a good matchup for guys like Lamelo Ball, but they kind of are, which we're going to get into. He's worth a play over 30.5, and he's absolutely worth a play up to 35 plus as well. Really what it comes down to, if Miles Bridges is out of the lineup for the Hornets, Lamelo Ball becomes an auto bet. He's just going to shoot the ball a zillion gajillion times. That's approximately the scientific numbers there, gazillion bajillion times. Lamelo Ball's played 5 games this season without Miles Bridges. In those 5 games, he scored 31, 38, 35, 35, and 50 points. So he's gone over the main line of 30.5 in all 5, and he's cashed the latter play of 35 plus in 4 of those 5. And his usage rate is just an absolutely bonkers 43.5%. To give you context to that usage rate, the 2 highest usage rates in NBA history, 41.65% and just over 40%. Those are the only 2 times in NBA history a player has averaged over a 40% usage rate. And Ball is even above those numbers when he plays basketball without Miles Bridges. It's historic what he's doing from a usage rate perspective. And if you dig into the matchup, I'm not going to say it's a smash up, but it's not as bad as you would think. The one area in which the Magic defense struggles a little bit is guarding perimeter-oriented guards that can pull up like Lamelo Ball. On the year, the Magic are allowing the 10th most points per game to the pick-and-roll ball handler. That's how Lamelo Ball scores the majority of his points. The Magic are also allowing the 7th highest frequency of shots against them be pull-up three-pointers. Lamelo Ball leads the NBA in pull-up three-point attempts per game. We just saw this exact matchup earlier this season. Miles Bridges was out against the Magic. Lamelo Ball scored 35 points, mostly just on volume. 27 field goal attempts, 14 of them came from a three-point range. That's what we are expecting tonight. An inefficient, but him getting 31 and 35 points to cash out both of these plays. That's bet number 2, player number 2. Next up, Raptors versus Pistons game. Jakob Poeltl, 30 plus points plus rebounds, plus 140 odds at DraftKings. Quietly, Jakob Poeltl's been pretty awesome this season for the Raptors. He's been awesome from both a points and a rebounds perspective. Has got a good matchup against a Pistons team. Good matchup in both of these categories. So let's just combine the 2. Technically, depending on what book you look at, his main line for this play is 26.5 or 27.5. But when you dig into it, it makes sense to pump him up to 30 plus, get juicy odds at plus 140. Because if you look, Jakob Poeltl has hit this number in 9 of his last 14 games, and in none of those situations did he land on exactly 27 through 29. He either went below 26.5 or he got to 30. So I do think that like the ceiling outcome is there for Jakob Poeltl. He's also done this, gotten to 30 in 4 of his last 5 games as well. And what I like about combining the 2 is because he could get 15 rebounds, he could get 25 points, or he could do both in the same game. Just to give you an example, last game out, quiet scoring game, tough matchup on the interior against the Cavs. You would not want to take a Jakob Poeltl point prop against the Cavs. He only scored 12 points, which isn't terrible. 12 points won't kill you. He had 19 rebounds in that game. And we've seen games where he's blown up from a points perspective. We've seen games that he's blown up from a rebounds perspective. And we've seen games where he's done it in both. And while the Pistons are not as bad, nearly as bad as they were last year, they still struggle guarding centers. They still struggle guarding the big man. They allow the 4th most points per game to the pick and roll man. That's how Jakob Poeltl scores the majority of his points. And just to kind of back that up a little bit, per hashtag NBA, Pistons are allowing the most points per game to centers in the entire NBA. Literally number 1. These 2 teams played 10 days ago. Jakob Poeltl scored 25 points in that game. In that game, he also had 18 rebounds, easily clearing the points and rebounds prop, easily clearing individually both his points and his rebounds prop. And if you look at Props Madness, which groups players with like similar profiles, 4 centers with a similar rebounding profile to Jakob Poeltl have played the Pistons this year. All 4 have hit their rebounds prop. That obviously includes Jakob Poeltl. Turns out he has the same similar profile to himself. He had 18 rebounds. His over-under was 9.5. Alperen Şengün had 10 rebounds. His over-under was 9.5. Clint Capella had 12 rebounds on an over-under of 7.5. And Jared Allen had 11 rebounds on an over-under of 10.5. So combining the 2 to get the juicy odds, that's what I love to do. Get a little bit better odds than just taking the mainline play when applicable. Like we didn't do it for Kyrie. We are doing it for Jakob Poeltl. And we're doing it for our 4th and final play as well. Pelicans versus Pacers game. Brandon Ingram, 25 plus points, plus 145 odds at bet 365. As always, we save our last play for the juiciest play in terms of odds. And I absolutely love this play on Brandon Ingram. This is what you would call a smash up, whatever you want to say. In general, we'll talk about the matchup against the Pacers. They're the type of defense that you want to target for high usage players, whether it's guards, forwards, whatever. Guys that have the ball in their hands, the highest usage players, have a ton of success against the Pacers. And overall, the Pacers are a beautiful combination of being bottom 10 in defensive net rating and being top 10 in pace. Now they're like 8th, 9th in both of those categories, like 8th, 9th worst defense, 8th, 9th fastest pace. So they're not quite the Bulls, which are like the perfect example of that, fastest pace and worst defense. But being bottom 10 in both of those categories is still good for just general player stat accumulation. That's what makes them a good defense to target. And as I mentioned earlier, for the Pacers specifically, you want to target them with high usage players. They allow the 6th most points per game to pick and roll ball handlers, 4th most points per game via isolation, and they foul at the 5th highest rate as well. All those play types are guys with the ball in their hands, right? The big man, or excuse me, the player running the pick and roll, the player via isolation, and then going to the hoop and getting fouled. Now, the foul rate can also be a big man who draws a bunch of contact and gets fouled. It can also be guys like a Brandon Ingram, like a Jimmy Butler, that like to get to the line. And according to Props Madness, 7 players with a similar scoring type to Brandon Ingram have played against the Pacers this year. 6 of those 7 have hit their point prop over. The only one that missed was Kyle Kuzma. We know we can't trust a Wizard. We didn't play that yesterday. The Wizards are a tough team. Kyle Kuzma is a tough player to trust. But the remaining 6 players, a lot of them smoked their over. RJ Barrett, 39 points. Over-under was 24.5. Franz Wagner did this twice against the Pacers, scoring 29 points on the over-under of 25.5 and 28 on the over-under of 23.5. Brandon Ingram, this exact matchup, scored 26 points. His over-under was 2.5. Jason Tatum, 37 points. Over-under was 28.5. And Paolo Banchero put up a 50-burger against the Pacers. His over-under was 24.5. So great play from matchup perspective. It's also a nice little fade of recent results as well. Brandon Ingram's had a quiet last 2 games, scoring 17 and 18 points. In a smash play, in a dream matchup, a smash up, we like for him to get the 25 plus points tonight, cashing out our 4th and final pick of the video. And that's all we got. 4 plays plus 1 ladder play for you guys to lock in for tonight. Remember to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And then the last thing I'll mention, because we're getting to the point of the holidays where I might not always have a YouTube video. If you want to have all my plays sent directly to your phone via text, email, or Telegram for only $5 a month, I do have a Dub Club where I do that. You sign up, $5 a month gets everything I'm playing sent to your phone. The way it works is whether I have a YouTube video or whether I post them on Twitter, you can still get everything for free. I just send them out first to my Dub Club. So you're able to get everything I am playing, and you're able to get that before the odds change. So if you're watching the video and the odds are different, or you don't want to rely on Twitter or YouTube, whatever, that's why I have the Dub Club. If you're not interested, no problem, because you can still get everything for free on YouTube and on Twitter. And that's all we got. I appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.